All right, it is 2 minutes after the hour, so we are going to go ahead and get started. Thank you all for joining us. This is the busy webinar for December of 2021. Today, we're going to be talking about digital marketing trends for 2022. We're going to do things a little differently today, and I've got a special surprise for you that I'm going to roll out in just a minute, but I'm thankful that you're here. I'm thankful for all of you who've come to our webinars in the past. We're thankful for all of our busy web clients this holiday season, and hopefully we can help some of you grow in the new year and grow bigger and better in the new year. So thanks everybody again for joining us. If you are hearing this live, because this is going to be recorded and also shared on social channels and on YouTube, if you wouldn't mind putting in the chat pane just that you could hear me correctly and that I'm sounding good. Let me know where you are viewing this webinar from today. If you wouldn't mind just putting in the chat pane, that would be great. Molly Nicholson says A-OK. I wonder if that means that she's from Oklahoma or just that everything is great. But hi, Kathy from Minneapolis. Thank you for saying hi. And Molly's in North Minneapolis, but hopefully, it's about 3 degrees here in Minneapolis today. So hopefully Molly's thinking warm thoughts. And Lance from Nebraska, it's great to see you. And Cindy from my hometown of Eagan, Minnesota. So awesome. All right. Well, today, for those of you who are new to the busy webinar, we are a full-service digital marketing agency and growth marketing agency that is based in the Twin Cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul. So, what our basic thrust of business is we help customers who've got a really good, good start on their presence and take it to be even greater. So, what does that mean? It means that we help our customers with digital marketing, inbound marketing, creating new websites and new online platforms, and really making them work for on a customized level, a lot of which we're going to be talking about today. We are HubSpot agency partner certified. We are actually a platinum agency. We are Constant Contact certified. We are a Google partner and a Grow with Google high impact partner. So if you're interested, I will have contact information at the end, and we will go ahead and get started. So now, because I wanted to make this a little different today, I am actually going to stop sharing and turn on my video because I have a special guest star who's with me today, who hopefully will turn on his video. Hey, it's almost here. Oh, it's almost here.
Hey, how are you?
Hey, it's Dave Meyer, president of BusyWeb. Can everybody hear and see Dave okay? We're going to try doing a panel discussion today.
Yeah. This is going to be fun, Trigby. Hey, Molly. Hey, buddy.
This is the first time you've been on the busy webinar in a couple of years, right?
Oh, my goodness. Yeah.
That you handed over to me.
I know. It's been in your capable hands, and thank you for doing that, Trigby. So
we used to do weekly busy webinars, and that was a lot. What's your fondest memory of doing the busy webinar?
I think my favorite event, we had a panel style conversation just like this with a few of our team members, and we talked about search engine optimization, and I learned a ton just because you never see the true genius of people until they're on the spotlight. And it was one of our team members that did not want to be there, and then she just blew me away with the things that you need to know as a customer for SEO. So this is great, and we've been doing a little bit of homework and can't wait to share what's new or what we think is coming up that's new. So
yeah, exactly. I think my favorite memory was this was a long time ago, probably almost 7 years ago. I was having coffee with somebody in the South Metro, about 40 miles away from the office, and I got a call at about 10:15, and somebody said, "Hey, Dave's being rushed to the hospital, and could you come up and do the webinar?" And I said, "Well, yeah, absolutely. I'd be more than happy to come up and do the webinar. Is it done?" I said, "No, you'll have to finish the webinar and then do it and then perform it." So that was a pretty scary 2 hours. So speaking of scary to 2 hours. It sounds like everybody on the call, everybody can see us correctly. So I wanted to start today by talking about, as we're talking about what we're going to look in to 2022, Dave, is talk a little bit about 2021, which is there's some really good things that we should really celebrate. Like, we all did it. We're all still here. This is great. There are some things that happened this year that maybe we didn't want to have happen. Like, we all learned parts of the Greek alphabet that we didn't really necessarily wanted to see. Everybody on your Facebook feed is an epidemiologist, regardless of what you think about the pandemic. Everybody's got an opinion, and they're more than happy to share it with you. And then most importantly for me, I finally got to see that darn Bond movie, but it was a year and a half too late. But now what we've got as marketers, we've got everybody all over the place. Some people are in the office, some people are working from home. It's harder than ever to get people's attention when we're trying to get people's attention. So that's the first thing that I think we noticed in 2021 that's going to carry over to 2022 is, boy, it's really hard to get people's attention.
Absolutely.
That sound about right?
I agree totally. And I think the interesting thing now is that everyone kind of understands that there is a much more flexible way to work and to engage and to connect. And while it's great for everybody to be able to work from home, we're seeing a lot of webinar fatigue in particular right now. So thanks to all of you that have shown up. I really wish it could be in person. And we're exploring some options for 2022 once everything is settled down to get back face to face with everyone. So yeah, there's just so much out there. And so thanks for hanging on.
So one of the reasons why I had you join in today, Dave, is I know one of your sideline passions is that you're a speaker for Google. And so you have the privilege of being more on the front end on some major things, as opposed to just us peons out in the world. And I think one of the things that, from a trend standpoint, that we noticed that is really different this year is how privacy is different, especially when it comes to Apple products. With the new iOS on Apple, especially when you're talking about phones, you now have the option to whether or not you need to give a particular app access to your overall phone data. And that was a surprise for a lot of people, that they didn't know that your phone was really sharing intermingling of data. Mm-hmm. And especially when it comes to into email marketing, this is going to be a huge big deal for email marketing as well. So can you talk us through what are some of the privacy things that we're seeing that at BusyWeb, of how we're having to change to make sure that our customers are getting really accurate results?
Right. And there's kind of a double-edged sword on the privacy stuff, especially with iOS 15 and all the stuff that's come out in the past few months. First is that, yes, you can opt out of sharing your information on almost anything on an iOS device. And you can choose whether or not you share your personal information almost at every turn. That's great for people and humans, not so great for marketers that are trying to be as helpful as possible by connecting with people by interest, right? So if you're trying to find the right folks, it's a little bit more difficult to do that. On the flip side, however, the openings and the opens inside of email, like you mentioned, is overwhelming in the response, because all of a sudden everything is showing up as an open. In iOS, you have inflated open rates because anytime a message is delivered, it actually shows as open, because the system doesn't actually differentiate between a delivery and an open. Now, is this the end of the universe? No. But do you have to take this into account and make sure that you're planning for, okay, well, we know that our open rates probably aren't quite as strong as what we think. So you want to focus instead on engagements and clicks. And so doubling down and making sure that your content is as engaging as possible, as useful as possible, and really making things just interactive. And a lot of times that includes shortening things up or asking questions and getting that interaction and connections. So it's super, super interesting to see how it goes. In addition to doing the Google thing, I actually did have a chance to attend a few and speak at a few places outside of these four walls, which was amazing. So in Atlanta, Nashville, and Minneapolis, I attended the digital summits, and I think it was Atlanta, where there was a fella that was an iOS expert. And so some of the tips and tricks that he had were very, very informative and helpful in our strategy for our clients at BusyWeb. And it all revolves around, okay, you got to ignore the open rate or just realize that those numbers are weird, and instead just get people to click by any means possible.
Yeah. Molly from Minneapolis commented in the chat pane that everything that happens in her home as a conversation shows up within minutes as a commercial on Sling. So she purposely says weird things just to see if she can craft her own commercial experience. So
yeah, it's nuts how much.
That's great. I got something similar. I got a Google Home, and so I'm always a little wary as to how much that's recording my metadata. The good news for me is I live with a 7-year-old, and I know that the most terrifying thing that you can hear in your home, Dave, is when your 7-year-old says, "Hey, Google, play Barbie Girl again."
Yes.
So that's just that's just the worst. But the other thing that we're seeing from a trend standpoint is that email marketing and emails in general is just really going to get a whole lot worse. When the pandemic hit, everybody sort of flocked to, well, I can't call people, I can't go back to I can't do sales calls, I can't attract people, and so I'm going to start sending massive amounts of emails. And so what we saw in 2020 was a lot of people starting to send out emails, and they're all almost universally bad. I know that I've had my collection of favorites. I think I got one email from somebody saying, "I don't know you, but let me sum up what I can do for you in 2 words." And then there was a paragraph. Well, just on its face, that's not 2 words. If you're going to tell me something, you have to be authentic and you actually have to deliver it. And if you have something that you think I need to look at, give me the opportunity to, try and make it worth my while. I know at BusyWeb, we have, 5 or 6 department heads, and because we're a reasonable sized company. And it seems like everybody's going in on LinkedIn right now and pulling out everybody who's a director level or above at our company, and then sending the exact same email to all 5 of us.
Right.
Which really isn't going to work anymore, because especially for us, because we love to compare bad email. But when you're talking about trying to garner a message, sending the exact same thing is never really going to provide a good result. It's almost turning into the new cold calling. But the good news is that there's more opportunities to do email well and to do email right, and through things like actually creating customized email messages based on what people's interests are, based on how people are going to your website, based on what pages they're looking at, based on how they've expressed interest with you before. Those are all really great indicators of how you can continue to talk to people even through that tool. So you can see I had some stuff on screen here, where if you're including things like doing A/B testing, which we do at BusyWeb, you're going to get a great ROI, because you're actually going to synthesize the message that really makes a difference.
Absolutely. And Trigby, we did have a comment in from Molly, and also a question from Molly. Thanks, Molly, for all the feedback and input. But she notes that she uses custom filters, and in Gmail, for example, you can add plus at the end of anything, or at the end of your email address, and then say what that account was. So if you log in at Target, you can say, okay, well, here's my email address. So it's Dave at BusyWeb, or Dave plus Target at busyweb.com, right? And then because all of a sudden it'll start showing up with all of the partners of Target, or insert sinning company here that's selling your list, so you can see that. So killer tip on how to kind of see what people are doing and where they're sending. Apple, true to form, are offering up one-time use email addresses that you can use to connect and engage, and it still gets delivered to you, but it never gets shared in your real content. So, and Molly said, Molly plus busyweb@gmail.com is an example in the chat for everybody that's on. Molly also asks, however, a client wants to start email marketing and has a very large database of customers. He wants to just add them to the newsletter and send. And she said, no, they have to physically opt into that service. Is that correct? And that is absolutely correct. So in our monitoring and when we send things out to our customers, actually, if anyone subscribes to our stuff, you just saw this post last week about opt-in emails and how you can't just send things out carte blanche. The Canned Spam Act, all of the new stuff coming out of California and the Canada, I'm blanking on what the name of the Canada regulation are. Also, the EU has all of the different privacy technology stuff in there. But what you need to do is work on getting permission. So yes, you can send out a single note to your customer base, to that list, saying, would you like to opt in? But then everything after that is reliant, if you just keep sending to them anyway. A, it's technically illegal, but B, and probably more realistically and practically, it's just bad process. It's not the spirit of communication. Somebody has subscribed to your newsletter or connected with you, or you have their information because you've delivered some sort of value in some capacity. It's the exact same thing as what you see, Trygve, and what we all see, I think, in people sending out notes. You get what I call lazy linking, where somebody sends you a content or an invite to LinkedIn, and then they immediately spam you with some crap that you're not interested in, right? They're just automating. And, at some point, it's a numbers game, sure, but if your numbers game revolves around upsetting or angering as many people as possible, then you're likely to win using that tactic. But for everything else, you want to focus on actually connecting with people. And that's where we need to focus, is deliver real value, deliver real content, answer the needs of your customer, and then everything else works out. And that's kind of where I think 2022 is going. Marketers are going to keep getting smarter about this because we're being forced to.
Yeah, I think that my answer to Molly's question might be a little different, but approximately the same, in that I think you could send it out to your entire client base, but the question is really, should you?
Mm-hmm.
And because your client base probably has independent needs and independent wants, starting with something as a trust builder of asking, is it okay if I send you these promotional emails, is a great way to continue to develop the relationship and deepen the relationship that you've already had, because they've given your client some money. So I hopefully this helps, Molly. We've got a lot more to go through, but I think just because you can, it doesn't mean you should. And I would echo Dave's comments that the opt-in is always the safest way to do it, and the smartest way to do it, because then in addition to that, everybody who does opt in, those are the people that your account manager should really be focused on, because they're willing to play along. So email getting worse is one of our definitely big topics. And then, so one of the ways that we've looked at this differently is moving to video as opposed to just writing email. And so I included this one because this is a colossally bad hair day for me, but and just really terrible. I don't really know what it looks like. I'm wearing a Brillo pad, but I'm here in the home office, and there are a couple of different tools that we use specifically as we're trying to, as Dave talks about, deepen the relationship. Is that for one, I really don't like writing long emails. So if I can turn my camera on, which, we're all on camera 4 to 6 times a day right now anyway, let me turn it on, let me talk for a minute and a half, and then I'll send you that video clip. So it saves me a lot of time, and it also personalizes the relationship, because I've taken the time to make you a video and make something special. So I also find that this really helps in prospecting, because as everybody's writing bad emails, I'm really doing something a little different, and I can be a little fun and a little irreverent. For those who are on the call who've met me before, sometimes I get a little, I think I'm a little funnier than I am. And so I can bring that out, which then gives people an authenticity.
Trygve, I know that you do a sales training for HubSpot
I
agencies
do. Yeah.
Tuesday. And I know that this is one of those things that you really hammer
Yeah.
with your customer. Is there a killer script, or if we had a bullet point on what you should do for a video to do, say, a first engagement with someone you just met, what
Yep.
would be that kind of
Yep.
list that you would?
Yep. So, oops, I keep hitting the button. So, if you just met somebody, it's always and have a good first impression call. That's a great way to turn on your camera and just make a 90-second call, 90-second recap call. And that's one of the things that I find is really effective for me. And this was actually for one of my recap calls for one of our clients, where, hey, it was great to meet you. Based on our last conversation, here's kind of what I took. Here are the 3 bullet points that I took away from it. Here's what my action items are. And if any of these are different, or if you think I should be focusing on something else for our next call, just let me know and just reply back. It takes me a minute to do, 30 seconds to dump it in an email, and then it's gone. And it makes people feel like this is really something special. So there are a couple of different tools that I recommend, Dave, one of which is called Soapbox. It's soapbox.com. Second is a tool called Vistia. And that's something that you and I use on a regular basis. But I know in addition to this, HubSpot is actually included their own video tool. So anybody who's rolling into a HubSpot sequence, or I'm sorry, has HubSpot as part of their overall ecosystem, can start using HubSpot for video as well.
And that works even on the free stuff, right? I mean, when you're
Yeah.
saying, you just click the little button inside
Yep.
of the email, inside of the CRM tool, and it just pops up that little quick video shooter.
Yep. The tools that I just mentioned, well, HubSpot obviously is if you have HubSpot, it's a free thing, but Soapbox and Wistia, those are free. There are paid versions of it. I think I think the paid versions, I don't know how valuable they are, but I think the free version certainly is. And it's a really cool tool, and it's really something that's just completely different that not a lot of people are doing. So that's what we're doing, and we're encouraging our customers to do in 2022. But what we're doing is focusing less on Facebook. So this is the famous Mark Zuckerberg barbecue sauce video where he announced the name change of this. But what we're seeing is Facebook is trending a little bit older, and that's good in some ways, but it's not the 1A when you're talking about social media anymore. As people hit the pandemic, I think a lot more people got back into LinkedIn. So LinkedIn for us as a platform for our clients and for us personally, Dave, has just exploded. And so many more people are using LinkedIn in the way that they should have in the first place, as a way to communicate and a way to talk and a way to share. That's starting to happen a lot more on LinkedIn, wouldn't you think?
Absolutely. And with this whole meta thing with Facebook, I'm usually pretty bullish on the future, and I think it's going to pay out, and it's going to be interesting to see where meta goes in the near future, and probably in the 3 to 5 year future. But as far as what we're seeing for our clients, especially in B2B, we're not really seeing as much engagement. And it's even not as much about age ranges as it is about Facebook fatigue. You can't log on to Facebook without getting inundated with what your cousin's nephew's uncle's brother says about, insert your conspiracy theory here. And so the focus on absolute engagement at the cost of everything else is really resulting in marketers who are trying to play it smart, stepping a little bit away from the platform. And I totally agree. I think LinkedIn has really come back as a alternative for business communication LinkedIn, they do a lot of things very, very strangely. And, since they were purchased by Microsoft, I was very nervous, but I think it's really focused into the ability to share knowledge and connections from here's what I do for a living, and here's the problems that I'm trying to solve, or here are the things that I can add as value. And then going from there makes it super exciting, at least for me and for people that are networking like me, to do more than just find a job. LinkedIn was always kind of billed as, well, you just put in, it's your online resume. Well, nobody cares. Then there's a lot of movement in the space right now. There's a lot of people that are looking at new jobs, and the great migration or opting out is happening for sure. But there's also just so much opportunity for people that are doing their jobs and trying to do it better,
Right.
to really get some information. And that's where we're seeing a ton of feedback and information and connections. And Molly's popping in some great stuff in the comment box. So if everybody else is on chat, feel free to chime in as well. But she has a extension, Social Fixer, to kind of clear that out. I wish I could do that in my work, because I have so many things that I need to track for our clients. But putting in a keyword and not seeing any posts, not seeing any political posts, even during the election, boy, I'd probably have all my hair still if I was able to do that. So that would be amazing.
Yeah, I would definitely have a shorter forehead.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Dave, you're a TikToker. Do you and you're just getting into that, right?
Yes.
And what are you using it for?
It's interesting. It started by mostly trying to keep up with my kids, and realizing that there's a lot of fun stuff in there. But it's also a nice anecdote or antidote to the negativity and the incisiveness on Facebook in particular. So, it's easy to doom scroll on Facebook, but the immediate little dopamine hits that you get from TikTok, and once you start following and clicking and even hovering for a certain amount of time on specific things, the algorithm is very, very good at delivering more of what you're looking for. So for us at BusyWeb, and please go to tiktok.com/BusyWeb, BIZZYWEB, and check us out. We've been revisiting some of our greatest hits, and I want to get into a whole bunch more helpful and informative content. That's one of my goals for 22. We're so slammed with all of the big work that we promised we'd get done this year that we haven't had a chance to really dig in. But look for a lot more helpful, informative information. But you also need to be very creative on TikTok in order to get a following and have a story or some sort of a viewpoint.
Yeah, my favorite thing that we've ever did was Crazy Larry's website emporium.
Yeah, we got to get back. We got to post that one on there.
Absolutely. So back to our list of trends, I think the next thing that we've certainly noticed is that really a winning strategy starts with more personalization. And as we're talking about trying to synthesize from going to here, it's really starts with trying to get the right people that you want to talk to and build your marketing around that. So one of the things that we do at BusyWeb, and this is a couple examples of some personas that we've built for our clientele. So we're actually trying to create a full-blown narrative of who these people are, what are their influences, what are the things that they're really looking for, beyond just what's their title, what's their job. Because when we're trying to get people to do things, it matters what they feel and how they think as well.
Agree 100%. And I think you're going to see this as a theme throughout the rest of this presentation, of course, but engagement and connection with your audiences for B2B marketing, which is what we focus on a lot, but really in social media engagement for any business trying to connect with their customers, focuses on knowing who that person is and interacting with them in a useful way. The days of spam working, the days of lazy linking and sending out broadcast LinkedIn requests and then hitting people with crap as soon as you do, is so over. and people have a BS detector that's very, very strong and honed now. And so if you send information that's designed to help property manager Paul to make his next pitch to his boss about what he needs, and you help them figure out how your product, your service, your purchasable item is going to help him in his job, you're going to be engaged with, if you do it right, right? To connect with Susan and to try to get to her as an executive assistant that is focusing and making real decisions for her company in order to figure out where they're going to go, in our case for marketing, right? You need to give her tools that are going to help her in her job. We don't ever pitch about us. We engage and we help them answer questions.
And I think that in every business, there's always that client that's a little Looney Tunes, and you never really want, or if you have a bad experience with a client. And so the helpful part about doing this is if you're really looking at the front of the overall spectrum of who you're trying to work with and who you want to continue to have relationships with, actually focusing on the people you like and the people you do the most success with really then helps in the sales process and then helps in the service process as well, because you're really focused on the people that you're really going to be the most successful with. And so to start with in the whole life cycle of a business, it's always important to really pick who are the ones you're going to want to work with and how are you going to help them in an effective way.
For sure.
Yeah. So the other thing that I wanted to add here is that personalization really pays off, not only in your own stress level, but just in the overall marketing. I found a great set of statistics that most companies that are personalizing the web experiences realize almost a 20% uptick in sales and in marketing ROI. And once you actually deliver on that and get somebody to sign on the dotted line, those consumers are more likely to be a repeat customer the more you target in on what their personalization is. So as people are really looking in the new year, what do we do differently? How do we do it? It's doubling down on the thing that got you there in the first place, which is how did you get these people to say yes? And can you continue to provide value over and over and over, not just in the relationship experience, but because of the pandemic, you're needing to do that online. And so what we've changed our business on is our business isn't exclusively lead generation anymore. When we're talking to our customers, we're not just talking about how do we get new people for you. It's how do we delight the ones you have already and keep them engaged, because the kiss of death that you can ever hear from a customer is if they say, oh, I didn't know that you guys did that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the reason that happens is you're not keeping them engaged to remember to ask you the question and remember to know, hey, maybe this is something that the folks at BusyWeb do as well. So Molly asked the question, are you able to tie engagement to sales, leads, revenue if you aren't focused on leads anymore? Well, the answer is yes, we are able to tie engagement to sales and leads and revenue, but the focus on leads, one of the challenges that we found too is that if you're only focusing on leads, you have to really have what's known as sales and marketing alignment, because you can't focus just on leads. If I gave you Dave's mom's name and you hired, would that count as a lead? Well, on the one hand, yeah, because I gave you a name and that's somebody you can call. On the other hand, Dave's mom probably doesn't need what you're selling. So, okay, so if we're building these things out for you, it gets back to that personas. What's a good fit for you? What are the qualities they have, and how can we measure it in a way that's successful for you? So Molly's asking about the correct KPIs, and I think really it's a question of what your client and your customer really needs, and how can you, and when they're asking for something, how can you really deliver that in a way that's successful? And how do you measure success? Is it in conversions? Is it in new clicks to the website? Is it overall percentage growth? All of these are essentially right answers, but it really matters what really matters to your customer as well. So her comment in response to that was, well, they all want more sales and more revenue. Well, that's great, but that's not just marketing anymore. It's how you service, how you talk to somebody on the front end is just as important as how you sell to them, which is just as important as how you service them. So any company that's really looking for more revenue needs to look at the entire front of the house operations, because it's not just a couple of guys anymore who are banging on the phone. It's everybody who talks to a customer is now part of the sales process. This is one of my favorite things that I like talking about when we're talking about when we look at websites and how we evaluate websites. And this is whether or not somebody has a bad case of weemiitis. You remember weemiitis, Dave, or is that just a Trigby thing?
Oh no, they, though, you, them is also available. So
Yeah, they, though, you, them. So if we break this down, one of the things that I really use to evaluate a website, not only as somebody who does this for a living, but also somebody who buys frequently online, is how are these people talking to me? And are they talking to me based on what I need or what they want me to want? So when you look at, I'd encourage everybody who can hear me, go back and look through your website and ask yourself these questions. How many times does it say what we do and what I offer and what's important to us? Now, those are valuable things to have on a website, and I'm not saying get rid of them on the whole, but when you're talking to somebody online, you generally have a couple of seconds to get them to do what you want them to do, which is to take the next step in the process. And so the more you're talking about you, the less you're talking about the prospect. And really, the prospect's coming to you because they've got a problem. So there's a couple of things that are trending differently for 2022 is that what we're seeing is winning websites focus on three things, which is really what we refer to as the 3 sale, which is number one is, do I have a problem? Is my problem real and can it be solved? That's the first part of any website is validation of the problem. And the second is this website that I'm looking at providing a really good potential solution to that problem? And the third is, do I want this company to, or this person or this service or whatever, to be a potential solution for me? And if the answer to all three of those are yes, then somebody's going to throw up a hand. But if you're writing to the cliche, or if you're trying to use a lot of words when you're not, that's not you, who you are as people, you're really going to lose business. So what we're seeing a lot of is, a lot of times people will come to us and say, well, I really need a new website. Well, that's not entirely true. Sometimes the framework of it is fine. It just needs different writing. And so when we're talking to people, we don't always say, oh yeah, absolutely, let's tear everything down. Let's focus on the things that are working, and then let's focus on the things that can be improved upon. And more often than not, I know this is a bugaboo for me, Dave. I don't know how it is for you, but more often than not, I think a lot of people who do what we do just say, you know what, we have a special particular brand of secret sauce, and you're going to have to ditch everything and only focus on our particular brand of Kool-Aid. And that's not really how we operate, is it?
No. And I think as we look at what your website's focused on, what your content is focused on, what you deliver out to the world, making sure that, again, you go back to that personalization, that you're speaking to your audience and directly to their explicit need in the moment that they're making the decision. And the decision is on a number of different levels. Ultimately, and obviously, you want them to make a sale, right? This is easy for e-commerce websites, because ideally they identify the need, they say, yep, this is for me. They click buy and they're done, right? But for B2B sales, and this is kind of where we can go back into KPIs for Molly's question, you're really looking for people to start engaging with you in a process for communication and engagement. In B2B selling, most times the general wisdom is that it takes 80 clicks before a given person will actually connect with the business. So they're going to do their research before they click connect, click call now, or just reach out to you, right? So your job and your KPIs should lean in on how many times are we engaging people in their purchase decision process. It might be clicking a form, it might be filling something out, it might be doing some sort of a back and forth, but we
Yeah.
want to go back on that. And if you're always focused on you, you're missing out on a massive opportunity to connect with them. It's like a cocktail party. Do you gravitate towards the people who just sit in the corner and drone on about themselves the entire time? Or are you interested with the people that are asking questions and that are providing insightful answers to things that you're talking about and helping you add value? It's the difference between a crappy car salesman that's trying to sell you undercoating and somebody that actually helps you solve your problem before you even decide to work with them.
Yeah. And I know you mentioned, Dave, that I teach the HubSpot pipeline generation bootcamp. One of the things that the statistics that we promote in that is that, especially in the last 2 years, if you really went about 3 years ago, the amount of calling a salesperson would have to do in order to get an actual response would be relatively low. It would be in the 3 to 5 range before you get a response. That's actually tripled. It's in the 10 to 15 range now. And so as you're trying to be more authentic, and as you talked about, Dave, when those customers are doing their research, they're already going to be making decisions based on what they see on your website. And already going to, man, I couldn't say, that was a word I tried to say all at once, already going to evaluate you and self identify as not a good fit unless you can talk to them otherwise. And so really, as marketers, what we hear all the time is that there's always this clash between sales and marketing, right? The marketing people are trying to do everything they can to help. The salespeople just always say, well, the leads are universally bad. Well, if you have your salespeople having to make 15 calls to get somebody to pick up the phone, then yeah, they're not altogether wrong. So better marketing leads to better sales conversations, and better sales conversations should in turn lead to better feedback to the marketing team. Salespeople are not immune to, you don't just get to say, yeah, the leads are bad. This isn't a Glenn Ross thing. It's, you actually have to provide the feedback back to the marketing team. You can't just say that it's not working. Right. One of the things that we're seeing a lot of this year is as well, and this is one of our last ones, is that, and I know, Dave, you are having these conversations with people all the time where they say, well, I got contacted by this company that does this one tool, right? Do you know of them? And almost universally, my answer is no. And I haven't heard of them because they've just popped up and they've just started to go out, and they'll tell you, well, we do this one thing so much better than these other big guys, places like Pardot and HubSpot or Constant Cons. So you should really come to us because we do these two things, a couple of things differently. Well, that might be true, but what you end up getting is what I have over on the right-hand side of the screen is you have sort of this disparate set of tools because people are saying, well, that one thing is better than this other thing. And so there's this technology clash. Is what are they using and how are they using it and how easy is it? Because you're just like me, right, Dave, where shiny toys are awesome. Anybody wants to show me a new tech demo? Yeah, I'm there, man. I want to see it and I want to see it's cool. But what the companies that are really going to be winning in 2022, I think, are really going to be reinvesting in more of a platform mentality where, yeah, you might not have that one thing that really turns the dial up to 11, but you've got all these other things that really work well. And so when we like HubSpot, and I think one of the reasons why we like HubSpot and we talk about HubSpot, promote HubSpot, isn't because we get a ton of money from HubSpot to do so. It's because it actually makes people's lives easier. And it actually helps to get people, it's a tool that people like to use because it's easy to use. So from a trend standpoint, I know what I've got on screen here is, HubSpot really started on a marketing platform, but now they've gone from just as a marketing platform to have a couple of different platforms: marketing, sales, and then service. And then now all of a sudden that what they've created is an ecosystem, so everything tends to work well and go into that and make sure that everybody who has different needs in a company has their needs met by the different tools that they use. I don't know, Dave, what do you think?
Yeah, it's really interesting. And this idea of so many different tools being able to do specific things, I think that's the key to what a lot of us as marketers have just been trained to do. Okay, we find something or we find a specific need, and none of the tools that we see in our first research will do exactly what we need at a broad level. So we find this one little widget. We all have squirrel, aka shiny object syndrome. We wouldn't be in marketing if we didn't. So that's been tricky. And for a long time, BusyWeb, when I created this thing, way back in the 1900s, yeah, right. We just kind of went with, okay, well, there's all these different disparate things that we can use to build. And so as time has gone on, we've realized that there's a lot being lost in task switching and in our tools not really talking to each other. You can have a sales process that's built off of Excel spreadsheets and an email marketing tool, or just Outlook and spamming people and going on LinkedIn and going crazy. As long as you have someone to consolidate all of that, you're going to be okay. Is it going to get you the scale that you're looking for? Maybe not, but you can kind of fake it. That's
Right.
what we call Franken spotting, right?
Yeah.
So you can piece together almost anything. The cool thing about where in particular HubSpot is going, and again, HubSpot is not a major revenue generator for us, but it is a tool that we use a ton. And the culture and the idea of just everything needs to work together is such an amazing thing. We were on, I'm not afraid to name names. We were on Zoho as a CRM prior to HubSpot. And you can make Zoho do anything, but you have to log into different apps for each of these little things. And it has to go across, and you have to get all of these things, and it has to export a report, do a CSV file, and then pull it back in and do it sideways and all these other things. Plus, it just didn't integrate with what we were doing. We decided to take the leap and go into HubSpot. And all of a sudden, every email that I sent, I didn't have to go back in to log in and get my contact information for that person and load it into my CRM. It was just in there because I sent an email.
Well, there's a couple of things that we should point out in that narrative.
Right.
Was your team really happy about going to HubSpot?
They weren't thrilled because it was.
And who was the loudest? Who was the loudest person that you had on the team saying, "What on earth are you doing?"
I think it was actually our ops team saying.
It was, well, it was me too, because as the person who runs the sales team, what are you doing? Oh my God. No. And now, I didn't want any of it. And now, it's one of those things. It's like when I got my first iPhone, it was,
right.
I don't want it. Too expensive, really expensive. Yep. Oh man. Oh crap. This is nice.
Right. And again, this isn't a HubSpot ad. This is find things that work for your business and help you to do more and to work together. If everything's working, I mean, now you can build a website in HubSpot and you can customize that website based on what you know about that person. So if you're marketing to one of your personas, you can have completely different websites by persona. And as soon as you know something about that person, you're delivering more information to them, but then you're not bothering them with crap they don't want. You're just giving them the stuff that you know you can help them with. So it's way easier. And so we're looking in particular at, and this hub and this flywheel that you see on the screen here is something that we're seeing a lot of leverage with, focusing on tools that help you grow your business and scale without having to duct tape and baling wire everything together. Things that are designed to work together from the start is where you're really going to get your scale, where all of a sudden you can go in and find sales reports and focus on, okay, well, this member of my team hasn't been closing as much. What's going on? Or this particular marketing tool, Dave thought that TikTok was super cool because he saw this really groovy dance thing that he really wanted to do, but it hasn't turned into any leads, and we haven't seen anything that's delivered anything. We now have the data to go into that.
Yeah.
And so using things that are smart is super, super helpful.
And that sort of brings us to our last trend is, if the last 2 years have taught us anything, it's that change is inevitable.
Mhm.
And anything that we're going to do, no matter what your business is, everything's just going to have to get shaken up almost constantly, because the world's changing, political climate is changing, literally the weather is changing. I think 2 days ago here in Minnesota it was 30 degrees, and now the dog's sitting in front of the fireplace whining. So change is going to happen. And so the best thing that what we're seeing is the people who are really winning are the people who are putting their customers at the center and how of their universe, and then asking, how do we attract the ones we want, and then how do we engage the ones we want, and then how do we service and really make those customers happy. So they're talking about a lot of different things. The flywheel for us isn't just a neat funky thing that we have on our laptops. It's an actual philosophy, and that what you're doing now isn't that the handoff from one group to the next group to the next group to the next group just introduces a lot more people, and it's that tech switching thing that you had mentioned before. So if as you go into 2022, the operative question is, you're evaluating systems and you're evaluating ROI isn't how cool it is, or how many different arms does it have, or how many different things can it do for you, is how easy the real question should be, is how easy is it to adopt, and does it fit my culture, and can I get more than people to take advantage of it. And we had this at BusyWeb, where there was something that I brought to the table that I thought was really cool, but I didn't want to buy it unless it was something that it was something that the whole team could use. And we made a team decision, and nobody else really needs this, so yeah, we're going to pass on that. So when we talk to people about tools and tech stacks, it's what we're seeing is it's more than just a list of functionalities. It's also a question of culture. And how culture fits in. So we're coming up on the top of the hour, and I know that we've had a couple of questions, and Molly's been really great in the chat pane, but this is a great opportunity. Is if anybody's got any questions or comments that we want, we'd love to hear from you and see what you're seeing in 2022 to see if we really missed anything. But
yeah,
for those of you who have participated, thank you so much, and thank you for sticking around. We do have a special holiday gift for those people who are on. We have created a lead generation calculator, where again, salespeople, what do you need? Well, I need more leads. I want more leads. Okay, well, what's that really going to take? So this is a calculator that we developed. We're actually going to be sending this out to everybody who is viewing this live. Is how many new visitors do you need in order to achieve that goal? How many new leads? How many of those leads have to translate to customers in order to do that? So you can, when you're starting to plan out what does a successful marketing campaign look like, this would be a really essential tool in order to get there.
It's really fun, and it's a Google sheet that we've customized and put macros into, so that you can just enter in what the key needs for your client, for your boss are, and then you can work backwards from there. So especially for Molly, this is going to be a great one to really build out. This is something we have a couple of our clients on. And so if there's specific questions that you have, or whatever you want to chat about, feel free to raise your hand. If you'd rather just talk to us, if you raise your hand, I will turn you on so that you can just speak to us instead of having to type. Molly says she literally needed this today, so I'm so delighted that you were able to come on and help us.
Absolutely.
For anybody else that's on, while we do, and again, just go into the Zoom and raise your hand, and I'd be happy to turn on your audio so that you can talk if you want to say a few words. For me, 2022 is all about adapting to inevitable and massive change. And so any tools that we can use to help, in particular for BusyWeb, and for our clients, any tool that we can use to help adapt quickly and work smarter and not harder, and kind of keep our compass on revenue growth instead of getting pulled in all kinds of different directions. And I think the smartest thing that we did when all of this COVID thing came down was we doubled down on being as useful as possible to our clients. We were
Absolutely.
working with a ton of businesses that did a lot of in-person sales and a lot of in-person networking. They went to trade shows. They'd spend 60 or 70 grand on a show, and that was all gone. So we went all in on helping our customers replace that revenue in those leads and actually do it in a smarter way than just relying on people dropping business cards in a fishbowl, for example. And that's really paid off, but we're going to need to keep our eyes on the prize as a marketing community. And, most of the folks that are on, I see all of you, most of us are marketers in this room, and we just need to be as useful and as helpful as possible. Cindy says, I'm a small business and you're always being pulled in every direction. Absolutely. So you need to find the tools and the focus to keep serving your customer. It's so tempting, especially when things get a little rough, to either cut marketing budget or tactics, or to try and be more things to more people. And I've been having conversations with a number of our clients to say, just focus on your best customer. And you can still serve other people if they happen to walk in the door. But, if you focus your marketing and if you focus who you're talking to on your best customers and the ones that you would work with every single day of the week, if you could have 5 more, it would completely transform your business. Focus on those people and write content and help them. And then everything works out. So it's going to be such a weird year. It's going to be a lot of fun.
I think for me, the most important thing that I see is fortune favors the doer. One of the things that I'm famous for, and I get ribbed at for BusyWeb is the idea that I share a lot, which is there's a million different ways to drive to Chicago, and none of them are wrong. If you get in your car and you start driving, eventually you're going to hit Chicago, and that's great as a goal. But what we advocate for people is let's figure out the quickest and shortest and most efficient way to get there. Well, that doesn't mean that there aren't other ways to get there. They just might take longer, and you might have to, drive through Madison or something like that. All of which is fine, but it gets you there. The one thing that will not work in 2022 is if you make the goal to go to Chicago, and then you don't do anything in order to support that goal. Just hoping that you're in Chicago will not work in 2022.
Right. So, and I know we're almost out of time here, but let me extend our task switching metaphor and say, if you said you wanted to go to Chicago and you said, okay, well, I have a moped and I have some skates and I have, a pogo stick, and then I have an old beat up jalopy. And so I'm pretty sure I can get that. If you have all kinds of different tools and you're trying to use all of those different tools in their unique ways to get what you're looking for, wouldn't it be better just to hop in a car that has all of the buttons that you need?
Yeah.
So find what tools work for you. I don't care what it is, as long as it's something that you can trust, that it's a system to help you grow your business. I see people starting to drop off. Thank you all so much for hanging out. I hope this was coming. I would love your feedback if you thought this was something that we should do more of. We're really trying to deliver higher level and more useful content with the coming year. And Trigvi and I are going to be partnering up a little bit more on these. So hopefully this was cool, and we'd love your feedback. If you have a moment, just send us a note.
Thanks everybody for joining. If you're a BusyWeb client, thank you so much for working with us in 2021. We're looking really forward to a great 2022 and helping you grow. If anybody's interested, you can find us at busyweb.com, but I suppose I can put I'll put our contact information back up just as a final note. This is my contact and Dave's contact. We'd love to hear from you. If you enjoyed this webinar, you thought this was different and fun and exciting, we'd love to hear what you thought, and if you'd like us to do more like this. But yeah, so Merry Christmas, Dave. Happy holidays.
Yes, happy holidays to everyone that's on. Thank you all very much for hanging out, and I hope you got what you needed out of us. And until next time, we'll see you next year. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, we'll see you next year.
Bye.